Welcome back, College Baseball Central fans. Got a good one joining us today. Chris Pollard, head coach of the 3-0 Duke Blue Devils, dominated the weekend in Conway. Great start to the season for you, Coach. How you feeling?
Well, I'm excited about our club. I'm proud of the effort that we put forward this past weekend, and I probably liked yesterday's game the best because it was really sloppy. We made a lot of mistakes. We didn't execute in a lot of ways, but yet we were tough enough to kind of stay in the fight. And I thought we showed toughness and competitive fight that I've candidly been looking for out of this group. And so I thought that was a big takeaway for me from the weekend.
That was a really great tournament that you guys had out there. Was it special to be able to talk to Gary Gilmore and kind of do all that pageantry as he's retiring?
Yeah, when I reached out to Gary, it's probably been 2.5 years ago now, when I knew he was starting to ponder retirement, and I said, "Man, we'd love to come down and play one more time in one of your tournaments before you ride off into the sunset." And we'd had that this past weekend on the books for at least 18 months, probably close to 2 years. And then, of course, we wound up, as fate would have it, having it get sent down there for the regional last year. And so this, kind of became a rematch of last year's regional championship. But honestly, you guys, I'll take all the trips to Conway that I can take. It's a beautiful ballpark. It's one of the best ballparks in college baseball. It's a great campus. I love the area. Their fan support, the atmosphere they create there is phenomenal. And as you guys know, and you alluded to, I have so much respect for my friend Gary Gilmore that it's a lot of fun to be down there. It really is.
So what impressed you the most over the past weekend? The bats were alive, so
Yeah, I think that was the biggest question mark for us coming into the weekend, and people outside the program had identified that as our biggest question mark. But honestly, I think in house we felt like that was our biggest question mark. I think when healthy and dialed in, I think we feel like we've got a pretty good pitching staff. And I think we'd seen enough from our team to know that we were strong defensively in some areas and depth and had good depth. But we just hadn't strung together a lot of offense. We didn't do it great in the fall and really hadn't done it except in a few spurts in the spring. So it was really cool to kind of see the offense start to flow. And, I think a big step forward for our offense has been the emergence of the freshmen and the roles that they're playing, particularly AJ Gracia. He was a guy that at the beginning of the fall, I said, this guy's going to be a really good player one day in our program, but I didn't know it was going to be now. And he just keeps getting better with every week that goes by. And he's just such a mature hitter. He's got such a great heart rate. He doesn't leave the zone. I mean, you just can't get him to leave the zone to chase a pitch. And he makes a ton of contact. And now he's really growing into some power as he, fills out that great frame that he's got.
you guys hit 16 home runs. Did they exceed even your expectations for the weekend?
Yeah, and a little bit of that's park generated. The park was playing really small, especially on Saturday. I thought it played a lot truer yesterday in our game with Coastal, and some balls that were hit yesterday that certainly would have been out of the ballpark that candidly could have changed the trajectory of yesterday's game. Antonacci hit a ball that Devin Obie robbed at the wall that I think on Saturday probably leaves the park that was playing that much different. But if you go back and you look at the TrackMan numbers, we hit some of those balls right on the screws too. I mean, a lot of them were 105 plus, 109, 110. We had a 111 exit velo from Devin Obie. So, we were hitting a lot of balls on the screws. It wasn't just the ballpark playing small. And so, I think we'll grow into some power as we go through the course of the year. I also think, and I don't necessarily know that it was on display as much this weekend, I think this is a team that can, generate some high walk rates and really apply pressure to opposing pitching staffs by grinding out at bats. And we didn't do that as much this weekend as I thought we would, but that's something I've seen out of this group. I think that, is there to keep an eye on.
The narrative with your program has got to been pitching, 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 and you've touched on it a little bit already. Do you feel like the offense should get more of that national credence, or do you feel like there's still a lot of room to grow with that bunch?
I think there's a lot of room for us to grow and get better in a lot of areas. I mean, we weren't very good on the bases this weekend. We weren't very good at controlling the running game. We had opportunities to score a runner from third yesterday and didn't do it. In spurts over the weekend, we gave up some free offense, and we've got to get that cleaned up. So, I think there's a lot of room for growth, but I'm happy for our offense to come out and get some confidence. I'm proud of our offense, the way we competed. And we saw some really good arms. Reisendorf for Indiana was a really good arm. And certainly Keaton, we caught him at a good time because he's rehabbing back to 100%. But Keaton's going to be a really good arm for George Mason. And, of course, Coastal ran some good arms out there yesterday. Man, the guy they've got at the end of the bullpen, he's going to be really special. Hinkle's going to be a guy for them.
So with talk about pitching, what's been the secret to you getting these great arms?
Well, I think it starts with a job that's been done in recruiting, and certainly, Coach Blankmeyer, our recruiting coordinator, and going back to Josh Jordan and the job that he did as our recruiting coordinator prior to leaving for LSU, and we've been blessed to get some guys to campus that are really good physically. I mean, they look the part. They're long. They're big, strong guys with a lot of tools, but I can't say enough good things about the job that Brady Kirkpatrick's done as our pitching coach. I mean, it's really special to see how he brings guys along. And I think what makes Brady so unique, he has a knack for understanding how to put a guy in a position to be successful, whether it's pitch calling, whether it's helping a guy develop into a role, whether it's a mechanical adjustment. Everything is geared towards, hey, this is what's going to put this guy in a position to be the best version of himself. He's really got a knack for it.
You hear the word culture around programs a lot. What does culture mean to you, and what does it mean to your program?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. It's one of the most important things to us. We talk about what is blue collar. People ask me, what does it mean? You have that hashtag on social media. What does it mean to be blue collar? And I always, every time I get a chance to talk about it, it's a nod to my dad, who was a blue collar man. He got up at 4:45 6 days a week and went and grinded it out for 33 years. We try to have that approach with our program. And, we talk about 4 core principles to our blue collar culture. We want to have a process over outcome mentality. We want guys to be more focused on the process than they are on the results. We talk a lot almost every day about servant leadership, how to be a great teammate, how to bring energy and feed into the guys around you. We talk about gratitude because it's such an important key component to keeping away self-entitlement and self-pity. And lastly, we talk a lot about a growth mindset. We embrace hard. We like hard because it makes us better. It makes us tougher. And so we don't hide from hard. We look for it. We lean into it. And we want our guys to embrace, being comfortable, being uncomfortable. We talk about those things. Those 4 key principles, we talk about them every single week.
So you guys have come up a little bit short over the last 2 seasons of Super Regionals. What has this team got that maybe previous teams don't have, or what's going to be the difference to get this one over the hump?
Yeah, it's a great question. Hopefully they've got another win or 2 in the regular season so that we can host instead of go on the road. We've kind of backed our way out of the host spot both in 2018 and last year in 2023, where we had an excellent opportunity if we finish out the season strong to be one of the 16 host seeds. And we came up a little bit short, probably a win or 2 short in 18 and maybe only 1 win short last year. And so I really believe that we'd love to have an opportunity to try to make a run through Durham and have a regional and a super regional run through Durham.
What have you kind of learned from those super regional experiences directly that you're going to be able to kind of change the way that you approach them and get that 3rd win or 2nd win?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I've thought about it a bunch. And and candidly, we've learned something different from each one of those experiences. Um, I thought that I thought in 18, we were really in the moment, and we dropped the opening game and to Texas Tech, came back and won the second one, and then we had our chances down the stretch, and then when we got back in 19, I thought after winning on opening night, we played really tight the rest of the series. We played not to lose. And I think we have to look at ourselves hard in the mirror and ask if some of that wasn't in play last year in Charlottesville, where you get that first one and you're like, man, we got one ball game here if we can do this. And I think we felt that pressure a little bit. Now, we also were playing two really good teams. That 2019 Vanderbilt team and last year's UVA team, and UVA was really rolling down the stretch at home, and so good teams will make you play bad sometimes, and that's part of it for sure. But I'd love to see us have a crack at trying to break through right here in Durham.
So, what's been your favorite memory of coaching at Duke so far?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's a bunch, honestly,
Yeah.
but would be hard pressed not to say the 2021 ACC championship game in Charlotte. 1-0 victory over NC State. It was coming out of COVID, and COVID had been really hard on our kids. It's hard on everybody. Make no mistake. It was tough on everybody, but we had struggled for big chunks of that year with what we thought was a really talented team. But down the stretch, we came together. We went on a 12-game winning streak and then won straight, 4 games straight through to win that ACC tournament. And when that ball landed in Chase Cheek's glove in right field, that's a feeling I'll never forget.
Got to ask that question before we watch you get to Omaha. So as much as it maybe stings right now, eventually there's going to be a clear answer to this. Or it was nice to get one that isn't, well, going to Omaha. So I know that personally hurts for you, but it's nice to hear a special experience like that with a team that overcame a lot of obstacles.
No question. They were a fun group. I'm proud of those guys for what they overcame. And yeah, hoping to have a new answer to that question here.
You kind of hit on it a little bit, but do you feel like 2020 was a lost opportunity for your team, or more so, do you think you've had better teams because of it?
A little bit of both, honestly. I think it's a great question, but a little bit of both. We had our first pitch banquet a couple of weeks ago now, and we had so many players back on campus and former players. We had over 60 former players back in attendance with their families, and we talked about that 2020 team. They finished number 8 in the country, got off to such a great start. You look now, Matt Mervis has already cracked into the big leagues. He was a first baseman on that team. Our Friday night ace, Bryce Jarvis, has already cracked into the big leagues with the Diamondbacks. And if you look around the diamond, there could be 3 other players off of that 2020 team that reached the big leagues by the end of this spring training. And so it was a really talented group, a special group. I'd love to have had the full year with that group to see what they were capable of accomplishing. But I definitely think they laid such a great foundation for the success that's followed over the last few years.
What are your thoughts on having Jonathan Santucci back? I mean, you guys are 1 win away from Omaha. You had to kind of change your pitching philosophy in the middle of the season last year when he went down, and now you have him back with all that experience that the young guys got. What does that mean, having him back?
Yeah, it's been awesome. Number one, I'm just happy for him. That's the main thing. He's such a great human. He works unbelievably hard. And just see him overcome the injury and get back to where he is. And honestly, he's better now than he was before the injury. The stuff is better. He's stronger. He's mentally tougher. And so it's been really a blessing to watch him kind of come through that, get to the other side of it, and see where he is now. I think it'll make him a better big leaguer when he gets there. But it did give us an opportunity to really have to lean on a lot of young players once he went out with the injury. And last year that 2023 team, 38% of our innings came from true freshmen, and you got those guys back now, and they're a little more seasoned, and you can tell it makes a difference. It just that their ability to go in and manage the game is so much better.
Talking about that pitching depth, what's the role of Fran O'Shell going to look like this year? Obviously, a highly touted player, but you had him coming out of the bullpen this weekend.
Yeah, it's to be determined. I think outside, and again, I think going into the weekend, I think we had one role really, really locked up, and that was Tooch throwing on Friday night. Like, there was no doubt that was the guy that was going to take the ball on Friday. The way he looked in the fall, the way he looked this preseason. And we really felt like outside of that, we've got a lot to still figure out. And now coming out of the weekend, I think you can definitely say Tooch is our Friday guy, and Charlie Bielenson is going to come in and close ball games for us the way he handled this past weekend. I was so proud of his performances. And still in the middle, there's a lot to be determined. And so we've got a lot of talent. We've got to keep putting them out there and kind of figuring out how those puzzle pieces fit best together. For now, as Fran is kind of working himself back to full strength, building up pitch capacity, I think he'll stay in the bullpen at least for one more week. But, we haven't ruled out anything with the other three starting spots and how we structure the rest of the pen.
Yeah, one of those puzzle pieces might be Kyle Johnson, who made his debut both at the plate and on the mound and was really good both sides of the ball. Is he going to play a lot of two-way action this season throughout the year? And how do you mitigate him being a freshman and adapting to college baseball with the level of intensity?
Yeah, I think that's the answer to your first question is yes, most definitely. He's going to do both. He's going to play right field a bunch. He's going to be in the lineup a lot, but he's also going to play a huge role in our pitching staff. And so for us, we've talked a lot about, like, how do we manage the volume and make sure that we don't, burn him out before the end of the year or compromise his ability to stay healthy. Like yesterday, we had a significant conversation about whether or not he should play the outfield yesterday. He's such a good outfielder. He's so explosive. He goes and gets the ball really well. But ultimately we said, no, let's keep him in the DH spot and save some of that wear and tear, both on the body, but also more on the arm. And so we just got to pick our spots and make sure we don't look up in April and May and, he's running low on gas.
Talking about kind of just being a Duke baseball coach, how tough is it to kind of live with the Duke basketball, almost a shadow? But then what are some of the hidden benefits of being not necessarily overlooked, but just kind of the second fiddle compared to such a massive program?
Well, the way I've described it to folks, the humbling thing and the challenging thing about Duke is you're surrounded by excellence. And it's certainly recognizable with our men's basketball program. And it was a thrill to share a head coach's meeting with Coach Krzyzewski for a decade and learn so much. And he was so good to our program. And John Shire is a rock star. He's an incredible coach, but I think he's a better human. He's just a great person, and he's dynamic, and everybody around here is so bought into him. But it goes way beyond our men's basketball program. Our men's lacrosse program is number 2 in the country right now. Our women's golf program has won 6 national championships. They've got more than our men's program. If you start looking at all of our great sports teams, but then you go beyond that and the academic excellence that's associated with this place. And then just a few 100 yards away from where we practice every day is one of the world's best medical centers, and so it's just pretty cool to be surrounded by a lot of excellence, and it challenges us each and every day to try to keep up.
Yeah, speaking of Duke basketball, with their rivalry with UNC, obviously goes to all the other sports, but I've heard that Ben Miller grew up a pretty diehard Tar Heel fan. What were you able to do to convince him to come to Duke?
Well, his mom helped. His mom's a Duke employee, and his folks are great. He did. If he's being honest, he grew up a big Carolina fan. We were lucky to get him. I'll tell you that much, Monty. You know, Ben used to come to our camps when he was a kid, and then as he got into high school, you could see him getting better and better. He was a 3-sport athlete, a football, basketball, baseball guy, and he was really good at all 3. And I remember us having some very specific conversations sitting in this office going, should we commit this guy? Because if we don't, he's probably going to go somewhere else and really hit. And sure enough, he wound up at Penn, and he hit for 4 years. And, you know, when he went into the portal, I didn't know that first time when I picked up the phone to call him, I didn't know if he was going to say, Coach, take a hike. You had your chance the first time around and you didn't offer. But, you know, from the very first conversation, there was obviously a lot of reasons that it was a good fit. And I think he's had a lot of fun being back here in Durham. I think he's enjoyed, you know, his friends and family being able to come over and watch him play and be such a part of his baseball experience. But you know what? I don't know if he'd want me to say this or not. I do know that this fall, I think he actually rode down and watched a UNC football game with his dad because, you know, some habits die hard. So, but well, I don't worry about where his allegiances will be this spring when we play those.
Well, the other question I wanted to ask, going back to the fall, speaking of allegiances, Andrew Wu getting to play for NC State a little bit in the scrimmage. What was the reasoning behind that?
Yeah, so well, it's a really cool story, and it says everything about Andy. You know, he's such a great teammate, such a team first guy. But what happened there was Andy was dealing with a hand injury that he couldn't swing the bat, but he was fine catching, and so it didn't bother him receiving at all. But it did. So we weren't going to have him play for us that night because he wasn't hitting. And then, you know, about 2/3 the way through that exhibition, one of NC State's catchers got hurt. And we kind of huddled behind the plate, and Elliot and Chris said, "Hey, we're in a little bit of a pickle here. We're down a catcher." And I said, "Well, listen, like Andy's not going to swing it for us. We'd love for him to get some defensive reps. You know, let's have him go behind the plate and he can catch your guys." And I think everybody had fun with it. He had a great time with it. And I'm glad he's healthy, that the hand is healed up. He had 2 really good at-bats for us this past weekend. He's playing at a really high level. We have a tough problem in that you have Alex Stone and Macon Winslow and Andrew Yu behind the plate. We got to figure out how to get all those guys reps because they're all really good players.
Yeah, I thought that was a really cool thing to see during the fall. I was in the press box and I look up, I'm like, wait a second. And I was a little confused for a second, but it was a really cool thing, especially when he got to throw out one of his teammates over at first base.
Yeah.
Kind of another fun one here. I like to ask a lot of coaches this. If you had to pick 2 head coaches across the country to go on a cross-country road trip with you, who would you choose?
Oh, my goodness. That's a great one. Wow. Well, first one would have to be, you know, my college baseball coach and a guy that's been a mentor in my life, Dick Cook. You know, I'd love to go around and take a baseball, you know, it's like a spring training trip with him and just listen to him talk baseball and just pick his brain. He's got such an incredible baseball mind. If I could pick one other coach, you know, that's probably Dave Davis, who was our basketball coach at Pfeiffer when I was a baseball coach there back in the late 90s, early 2000s. I've said this. He's one of those guys, Dave Davis, incredible basketball mind. I would pay to watch him coach a practice. He was such a dynamic guy. He had so much energy. You know, I would sit in Murner Gym there in Meisenheimer, North Carolina, on some nights and just watch him coach his team and go, boy, that's a guy that I don't even need to pay to watch the game. I'd come just to watch him coach a practice.
So we talked a little bit about hosting a little bit earlier. You guys are not going to be playing any games at the DPAP this season. It looks like you guys are going to be playing exclusively at home at Coombs. What's that going to be like? Is that going to be a benefit to the team knowing that they're playing in the same stadium, same dimensions all the time if they're at home?
Yeah, I think continuity is the big thing, and then just the logistics, the day in and day out. I mean, our locker room is here. Our facilities are just being able to be in the same space. I think it helps our guys mentally. I think it helps them academically. It certainly, I think, helps them from a comfort level baseball wise to be on playing on the same field that you practice on, and I really hope and I believe that now being in one place is going to allow us to grow our student support. And I want to see the Duke students get out and support this team. And I think we can create some atmosphere around the Duke baseball program here on campus.
Kind of a last one here for you, Coach. Your team has the Omaha buzz going on. Is that something that you guys are kind of embracing, totally ignoring it? Do you think it's rat poison? What are your just general thoughts on the excitement around your program?
We talked about this specifically 2 Fridays ago. So the last Friday of the preseason, we took our entire preseason meeting to talk about the expectations, to talk about some of the things that were being discussed about the team around the program. And, and I made it clear to our guys, like, all of this outside noise is going to make our job more difficult. That's the reality. And there's several reasons why. Number one, it kind of puts a target on your back. You get team's best bullet. There's already a lot of distractions in college baseball, in college athletics in general. This adds another one to it. And so we talked about being really intentional about how we kind of take all of this noise around the program and we turn it into white noise. And that's been a theme for us over the last couple of weeks is, like, how do you take these distractions and the noise that comes with all of this and you turn it into background noise and allows you to kind of calm and focus in on the task at hand. And we've got a long ways to go. But I will say I thought our guys did a good job with that this past weekend. I thought we did a good job of being where our feet are. We did a good job of being in the moment and competing in the moment. And we'll have to take that one day at a time. That's a message that they're hearing from me a bunch.
Well, thank you, Coach, for joining us today. I hope you reach all your goals this season. Hope to see you in Omaha, but of course, one game at a time.
Well, thanks
Coach.
And thanks for what you guys do for our sport.
Thanks, Coach.
See you guys.
See you.
See you.